Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 26, the final lesson of EDTS 371. Wow, yeah, you made it. All right, we're going to look at developing ready, willing, and able writers. So I pulled lots of the ideas from two of my favorite authors, actually Classrooms at Work, P. Cunningham and R. Allington. Richard Allington is prolific, as well as Writing Essentials by Reggie Routman. Those are two of my favorites. P. Cunningham also has some stuff out there, just not as much as Allington and Reggie Routman. So if you're looking for authors on specifically on writing, they also talk a lot about reading, but specifically on writing, those are two of your main authors there. Okay. Hopefully you are getting used to seeing this. What we want is written expression for kids to be able to write independently on their own. We want them to have strong oral language, vocab, phonemic awareness. We want them to know writing conventions, grammar, spelling, punctuation, capitalization. We want them to know about different genres through literature, sounds and phonics. Okay, you're getting the idea, right? That this is going to be what you need to think about all the time when you are teaching writing. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to jump into looking at three kind of methodologies or three sources. Hang on, I have to go plug my computer in because it is going to die right now. Just a second. All's good. We're back. Okay, so we're going to look at three kind of overarching methodologies that you might have seen out there in your practicums, but we're going to have a bit of a look at these. So first one is Writer's Workshop. Second one is 6+1 Traits of Writing, and the third one is Daily 5. So the first one, Writer's Workshop, is not really linked to a particular author or resource. It's more of a concept. 6+1 Traits and Daily 5 are definitely like resources linked to authors. Okay, so let's have a look. So this is a sort of a generic way that you can be introducing writing to your students. So basically it's, oh, look at that, an organizational structure. It should have an N there. It's an organizational structure for allowing the writing process to happen in a classroom setting. Next one, it replicates the practices of professional writers as they take a piece of writing from conception to publication. So it's trying to emulate sort of the steps that real writers take versus just, I think what happens so often in schools is we get a child to write something and then they hand it in and then they never do anything more with it. But that's not the reality of a real writer. A real writer writes and then they conference and they talk to people and then they go back and they edit and revise and then they go through that 7, 8, 20, 37 times. And so it's trying to emulate how professional writers actually write. It's based on the concept of a mini lesson. So it's this little introduction of the concept, and then the children go and work on their own writing, hopefully incorporating that mini lesson. It de-emphasizes mechanics and perfection, but celebrates getting across your ideas. So again, it's a bit of a philosophical idea that it's more about ideas and concepts than actually proper spelling and proper grammar and things like that. Okay, so just philosophically, you have to get your head around that. And it is a way of looking at writing instruction that shifts the emphasis from the finished product, so it's not really about the finished product, although that's a part of it, to what writers think and do as they write. So this is more focused on the journey of it. Okay, so let's look at the structure of Writer's Workshop format. So basically there's a little mini lesson. So say you have, an hour for your ELA time in grade 5. So this could be a way that you set your writing time up. You have a little mini lesson. Then they have writing time, and during their individual writing time is when you conference and have a bit of a sharing time. So this is 5 to 20 minutes for kindergarten, 10 to 25 minutes for Div 1, and 15 to 40 minutes for Div 2. Now, you build their stamina up to be able to independently write. So in kindergarten, you start with 5 minutes, and you probably stay there for September, October, then you go to 10, and then you gradually build up. You don't just suddenly say to your kindergarten kids, okay, you kids, write for 20 minutes. No, you build up their skill. Then you have author's chair, and then you publish. So let's look at what each of these are. So basically, I'm sorry that these are fairly fleshy, but I wanted you to have all this information in one spot on Writer's Workshop. So I've kind of condensed it down for you here. So basically, your mini lesson concept is a demonstration and thinking aloud. So this is where you're going to talk about, how do you use quotation marks, and then you actually talk about that, and you show the students, and you link it to literature, and you actually think aloud as the teacher so that they can hear your thought process. You let them know the objective of the mini lesson. So that's where your goals come in. What do you want them to actually know by the end of either the mini lesson or the end of their writing period? Focus only on one aspect for each mini lesson and keep it short. 5 minutes is super fast. It's already 6 minutes into this lecture, and it goes like that. 5 minutes goes super fast. You have to be laser focused and only work on one thing. Okay, teach grammar and mechanics when needed in their writing. So if they're coming up to writing a piece where they are going to be doing lots of lists, then you talk to them about how do you write a list so that the first word of the list is always a verb or always a noun. So you teach it in context of what they are going to then do in their writing. Writing on a subject of their choice is key. Again, if you are teaching students how to write a list, a proper list, it doesn't really matter the content of the list. They could write about how many books they have on their bookshelf or how many bicycles they have in their garage. It's the concept of how do you write that list. So again, I see lots of time when writing, we all have to write on a squirrel. Like everybody has to write on a squirrel. And there's gonna be some kids that are like, I don't have an opinion about squirrels. So how inspired are they going to be to write? Not so inspired. So get them to write on something that they're interested in. It's important that children, again, watch you write and hear you think aloud. So in this mini lesson is when you are actually showing them how you work through the issues or the concept that you are introducing. And don't let students get away with just writing, I have a dog. Barrage them with questions. What color is the dog? Do you like the dog? Is the dog fuzzy? Has the dog ever eaten anything weird? Don't let them get away with just, I have a dog. That's lame. Make sure that you barrage them with questions. Okay, the next part of mini lesson is the writing time. So this is individual time. Again, you will be building up their stamina to write. You have to be brutal about this writing time, that it is independent, and that because what you're doing is you're conferencing with the other students while they're writing. So you have to introduce that time as sacred time, that they cannot bother you. Unless there's blood, they cannot bother you. Because you are then working with 2 or 3 students laser focused on issues that those particular students need. That differentiated part, right? Okay, so writing time. So it's individual. They need to write on something that inspires them, because then they'll actually focus and do it. They need to incorporate what was taught in the mini lesson. So that's again why they need to know what you were trying to teach them so they can incorporate it. You encourage them to use different modes, so they can use handwritten journal, they can use a computer, they can incorporate graphics. Again, it doesn't always just have to be, here's a paragraph, write a paragraph out. The length of time, again, depends on the grade level and your students. You may have a group that in September is like, yeah, give me 40 minutes, I'm good to go. And you might have a group of students that even by the end of June still can't write for 40 minutes independently. So that will depend on your students. And this phase can go on for weeks, where they are just writing and creating on the same writing project. And I think that's the key here, is like real writers don't write a paragraph and then never come back to it. They write and then they revise and they work on it and they keep coming back. We can keep coming back. So this is where this can go on for a long time, this writing time. Okay, in the writing time, you want to be thinking about incorporating these 2 concepts, editing and revising, and they're not the same. Editing is students, once they are writing on a subject they like and know and in a genre that works for them, then introduce the concept of editing. So let them get kind of going. So this is where you are talking about spelling and grammar and punctuation, all kind of the mechanics of writing. This is, you want to introduce editing concepts in small chunks, in mini lessons over many lessons. So instead of saying, I need you to work on your capitalization, your punctuation, your spelling, your grammar, blah, 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 the kids get overwhelmed. We're just talking about capitalization today, and that's what we're going to work on. That's why this is amazing, because you keep coming back to the same work over and over again, so that they have this chance to really dive into all of these things that you want from an editing point of view, like those conventions, grammar, spelling, but they don't have to keep writing a different topic all the time. Okay, then you want to introduce revising. This is making good writing even better. Editing is kind of fixing your writing. Revising is making it better. It's making it more something, right? It makes the writing more clear, it makes it more interesting, it makes it more dramatic, it makes it more informative, it makes it more persuasive. So it makes it more something. When you are talking with your children, I use the terms even better, so that the children know that their writing is good, but it could be better. I think oftentimes when children see, circle, 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 this is wrong, you're spelling, blah, 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 again, they feel like their writing isn't good. But if they go, oh, my writing actually is good, but I could make it better, it's a different mindset. And revise by adding, replacing, removing, or reordering words. And that's part of what real writers do all the time. Okay, now, again, writing time is focused writing time. So even though students are encouraged to choose their own topics and genres, they do have to be introduced to different writing forms, such as short reports, business and friendly letters, poetry, narrative, descriptive, and persuasive essays. So you do want to be introducing different genres to them, but try to let them pick the topic that they're writing about within the genre. So again, if you are doing something on a persuasive essay, let them try to persuade you or their audience about something that they're actually passionate about and actually interested in. Instead of, we should have a park for squirrels, when again, they don't really actually care about squirrels. Okay, so always demonstrate these forms to your students. So again, if you're introducing persuasive essay, they should see you writing a persuasive essay. If you are introducing poetry, they should see you writing poetry. And again, try to connect this writing to real life as much as possible. So much of our writing in schools is just simply writing, it goes to the teacher, then it's never looked at again, or nobody else sees it. So even something like pen pals, or maybe they send a letter to the editor, or maybe they send it to the mayor, or maybe they have, even if there's another grade 5 class where they exchange back and forth, so that their writing actually has some kind of real life connection. Because of course we want our students to be writing with an audience in mind, but if there never is an audience that it's actually going to, other than you as a teacher, it's kind of an abstract concept. So try to create as many real life connections to their writing as possible. Okay, conferencing in writers' theater. This is happens during individual writing time. Okay, so this is what you are doing over at your desk, and you're pulling 2 or 3 students and working with them specifically on how to make their writing even better. So you want to go through the concepts that you did in the mini lesson if they need clarification. So this is what you could do in the writing conference with those 2 or 3 kids. So clarify the concepts that you already introduced. Start where the writer is at and shape the conference from there. So you want to go in with some goals, absolutely. But then if you find that where you thought the student was and where you wanted to start is different, you gotta hit that student where they're at. You will probably know exactly where the student is at going into the conference. Okay, and again, this is the time when students should be getting their pieces ready for publishing. And I'm going to talk about publishing, but this is where They're editing, they're revising, all those kind of things. And since you're doing one-on-one conferences, you can't circulate in your classroom. Again, don't start conferences until most of your students can write independently. Or else what'll happen is it will be chaotic and then you'll give up on this format, which I don't want you to do because there's some really amazing things. So you have to actually teach the students how to write independently while you are conferencing and the expectations that you have of them, and they will rise to it. Oftentimes what happens is they just don't know what they're supposed to do. So they goof around and do things like that, and then you get frustrated, and then you stop. It takes a bit of time. Don't give up. Don't give up on this because it is definitely worth it. Okay, author's chair. So this is again another part of Writers Conference. Add this in once your students can edit, peer edit, and write about 15 minutes each day. So this is a bit of a shift away from an informal circle sharing to about a fifth of your children sort of more formally sharing each day. So you don't want every child to share every day. That would get so long and so boring, and it would not work. So they can share any work that they've written. So even if they're in like just the pre-planning stage, so they might come up and say, I love squirrels. I'm going to write on squirrels. And you say, as a teacher, awesome. What specifically do you think tomorrow you're going to write on squirrels? I'm going to write on how they store nuts and where they find the nuts. That's it. And you say, awesome. I look forward to that tomorrow, to seeing you write that tomorrow. The kid sits down. It's like 20 seconds. So again, they don't have to share a finished work. They can share writing anywhere along the journey. And then what that does is it actually validates the journey, that it's not just about the finished product. Okay, so again, use comments while the child is sharing or after the child has shared as the author of the day or the author of that time. Say, I love the way you described the squirrel. I wonder why the character did this instead of this. Your ending really surprised me. I loved it, or it seemed a little abrupt, or the way you began your story was amazing. It caught me as a reader and held my attention. So again, you want to, those are kind of ways that you can support the child, but continually push them in their writing. Okay, I would pair some exceeding and beginning readers in this author's chair every day, because then the beginning reader, the beginning writer, I should have put writer. The beginning writer they don't feel that pressure that they have to fill 2 or 3 minutes, whereas your exceeding writer might want 2 or 3 minutes. So it all kind of balances out in time as well. Again, I would check with your beginning writer before just calling on him or her and make sure that they have something, that he or she has something prepared. If they don't have anything written down that they can read out, they can just share again orally what they might be thinking about for the next day. Here, you want to be thinking about peer editing and revising. So after a student has shared, they can ask the class members to tell them things that they liked about the piece, or if they have suggestions to make it better. And you as a teacher are super important in this author's chair. You will model how the sessions go. So if you are respectful and ask good questions and push the student to improve their writing but support them, that's how the students will talk to each other about their writing. Okay, so publishing. Now, I think sometimes when we think publishing, we think, it's got to be like a real book. Students can publish something after, I'd say, they've written 3 to 4 pieces. And this is simple. So this is a publication. So basically, they drew a title page, and then they just wrote, and this was from the 3103 class. This was their publication. So I drive my parents wild when I leave lots of dirty dishes in the sink, and then they drew a picture. I drive my parents wild when I don't put dishes in the dishwasher. Basically, it's stapled together, but it feels like a book. And then you put it in your in-class library, and kids can go to this. Are kids drawn to this when their own writing is in it? Absolutely. Don't think you have to, like, it's got to be big publication. Basically, piece of paper, staple it, boom, done. Okay? Don't make the illustrations the focus, make the writing the focus. But if the child is, really wants to do some illustrations, let them do that. If they want to do stick people, it's really about the writing. Even the polish is not the focus. Try not to make it this sort of final product that you're going to sell at some parent council event. We want to focus on the writing. And everyone does not need to publish the same number of pieces. So maybe you have a beginner writer who publishes 1. Awesome. Maybe you have an exceeding writer that publishes 15. I mean, I keep it a little bit under control, but again, that differentiation piece, maybe that beginning writer, that 1 piece is amazing. And so you want to honor that by not then forcing that beginning writer to try to do 5 or 6. So again, differentiation. Okay, that's Writer's Workshop as an overview of the concept of Writer's Workshop, and you can use it for teaching multiple concepts in ELA. Okay, let's jump into 6+1 traits of writing. So again, this is definitely a resource. It's like a book resource. There are actual boxes of these resources, and Ruth Cullum is the main author that's connected with 6+1 traits. There are 6 traits of writing, and then the +1 is a presentation, which is not really a trait of writing, which is why it's called 6+1. Now, this is definitely part of a balanced literacy philosophy where you're trying to help the students read and write not based on phonemic awareness, but on decoding through meaning, visual, and syntax. So again, you have to decide where you lie in the balanced literacy philosophy, but this is definitely a resource that you probably will see out there at some point in your practicum. So this is a tool for writing and using the writing process. It grew out of teachers evaluating children's writing and identifying common characteristics of good writing. The characteristics became the 6 traits. The extra trait is presentation. And the nice thing about this is it provides a common vocabulary. So you can always be using the same vocabulary and not having to introduce different vocabulary to the students, which again becomes confusing. So these are the 6 traits. So you have ideas, organization, voice, word choice, sentence fluency, conventions, and then this is the +1. This is the presentation. So let's have a quick look at these different traits. So basically, ideas are what's your idea that you are going to then write on. So what is my message? Is my message clear? Did I try to make it interesting? Do I have enough information? So this is, if you were talking about ideas with your students, this is that initial, what are you going to write about, and how are you going to make that message clear? Okay, organization is, again, how does my paper begin? Did I tell things in order? Does everything link to my message? And how does my paper end? So that's kind of one of those organizational tools of story writing or whatever genre you're writing in. Word choice. Have I used some words that I really love? Can my reader tell what my words mean? Have I used any new words? So, am I using that vocabulary? And do I try not to repeat words too many times, like good and fine? We want to get rid of those in elementary writing, right? Sentence fluency. Did I actually use sentences? Do my sentences begin in different ways? Right? Lots of elementary writing will be, and then I did, and then I did. So did I vary it? Did I use some long and some short sentences? Does my paper sound smooth as I listen to it? So those are some ways that you can talk about sentence fluency. Voice. I think this is a really interesting one because I don't think we talk about this enough in elementary writing. Is the student voice still there? Because each of us will write differently and it should sound like us. It should sound like us. We shouldn't pound individual voice out of elementary writing. So do I really like this paper? right? We've all written stuff that we're like, I actually don't really like this, but I'm pounding it out for the grade. I think we don't have to do that in elementary. Do I really like this paper? Are they proud of it? Does this writing sound like me? How do I want my readers to feel? And my favorite part of the story is what? My description, my plot, my characters, those kind of things. Okay, in conventions, this is the typical grammar spelling. Did I leave spaces between words? Did I use a title, periods? Can somebody read my spelling? And could another person read my paper? Okay, so that's 6+1. And so again, you can see how you can talk to your students about, okay, now I want you to check for your conventions, or now what's your voice in your paper? And you don't have to keep explaining those concepts. They already know once you have introduced them. Okay, finally, this is our last sort of resource, and probably again, Daily 5 is pretty popular as a resource for teaching writing. So it is a framework for structuring literacy time so students develop lifelong habits of reading, writing, and working independently. So Daily 5 is a bit of a combination. It's not just focused on writing, it's everything. It's reading, writing, and working independently. The sisters, Gail Bosher and Joan Moser, are the main authors behind Daily 5, and they have a lot of resources out there that you can use to structure your Daily 5 time. So basically, these are your 5 things that you will do on a daily basis, which is why it's called Daily 5. So basically, it is read to self, work on writing, read to someone, listen to reading, and word work. So again, you would need to build up the stamina of your children, because this is a lot of independent time. So you can either read to someone can be where they read to you as the conference, or you can conference sort of as a sixth. So they would have a choice of all of these, or do all of these Daily 5, and then they would come and conference with you, or you can be the someone that they read to. I would stop me at this point and go and watch this example in the classroom. It might give you a little bit of a clear idea of what Daily 5 is. I think it's only a couple minutes. So go have a little peek at that and then come on back. Okay, hopefully having looked at that, it makes a little bit more sense. So now these are kind of the books that are the main. If you wanted to dive into Daily 5, these would be 2 of your main resources. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go to the Daily Cafe website, and I want you to look at different aspects of this framework for literacy learning. What I'd like you to do is I'm just going to make sure I know what I'm doing here, is I want you to just have a poke around on this particular website, and particularly go to here. I put the visual here, and just click on each of the read to self work, so that again you have a bit of a clear idea of what the 5 aspects are in here. You can also go under support and go to barometer behaviors, because there is the recognition that you do have to have some pretty good classroom management parameters set up for this to work. And so it's not just hey, the kids will just dive in and be happy and I won't have any classroom management issues. No, you have to set it up. So you can have a look at on the website under support, go to barometer of behaviors, and it'll give you some ideas in there. Okay, this now is what I want you to, again, just like the spelling centers, I want you to go through each of these centers, and I want you to jot down on the Daily 5 evaluation sheet what you believe are the pros and cons of each center for both student and teacher. And again, we will talk about this in Collaborate. Don't skip this section, because it's your chance to really dive into this, because this is a pretty prevalent reading and writing structure out there. Okay, so these are your Daily 5 centers. So read to self, I want you to just read the medicine bag. And just click on the PDF and just read to yourself. And then jot down pros and cons from a student and a teacher point of view. Then I want you to work on writing. I want you to write a letter to yourself for December 9th, once done term. What are your memories of the term and what did you learn? So write yourself a letter. So this is the work on writing. Number 3, read to someone. I want you to read the following poem, Dance, to someone or just out loud to yourself. So here is the link for that. Under word work, under play, on the quiz, on this Quizlet, these are actually college, every college student should know words. So these are actually like legit words for you at your cognitive level. And under play, go to match on the left-hand side and then just click on match and then play the game. And then that would be word work. And then listen to reading, go to the links on the next slide and pick one of the Pete the Cat songs. These are fun songs and fun books. So you can, but just listen to one. Okay, so I want you to actually do those centers, and then in Collaborate, we're going to again spend a fair bit of time talking about what are some pros and cons of read to self from a student point of view? What are some pros and cons of from a teacher point of view? Work on writing, read to someone. So this is under lesson 26, this particular evaluation form. So have a go with that. Awesome. Hope you enjoyed that romp through writing methodologies, and we'll have lots of good time and Collaborate to discuss this. All right, take care, everybody.